Welcome to the Awakening to Abundance podcast. I'm your host, Athena. This podcast is more than a podcast, it's a transformative journey designed to help you awaken to your abundance. For you to discover what living the fullness of life means to you, and to co-create that life in this podcast community. As always, we're jumping right in with today's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Awakening to Abundance podcast. Today, we have another interview. We are interviewing a dear friend and colleague of mine, Linda Brand. But before we get into that, I want to mention that this is actually an interview from the past, because in October 2023 is really when I thought I was going to launch this podcast. And at the time, I actually had named it Abundance with Athena. But over time and all the things I went through with my awakening process through the divorce, as you've heard some of already, I decided that Awakening to Abundance was a more apt name for the podcast. And you'll also see that Linda and I talk toward the end of our conversation about some of her links and the name of her podcast at the time, which has also changed. And this goes along with our theme of starting where you're at, because wherever you are right now is literally the perfect place to begin, because it will change. It will expand into a different creation, just as you are expanding and growing. So I just wanted to put that out there. And at the time, we focus more on abundance and manifestation, but she actually tells us the story of her awakening. So it's very synchronistic, and I think you're going to really enjoy the interview because she is a very abundant being. And I'm just going to read off her bio real quick so you get to know her a little bit more before we dive in. Linda Brand is a certified life coach, EFT, which means tapping, practitioner, licensed realtor, and the founder of Worthy and Abundant, the thriving community and top 3% global podcast dedicated to empowering women. With over 30 years of entrepreneurial experience, Linda brings deep wisdom and practical insight to her work. Her journey is one of remarkable reinvention after overcoming a debilitating illness, raising her son as a single mother, and transforming her life at midlife, including selling her home, changing careers, and relocating across the country. Linda now guides women to break free from self-doubt, embrace new identities, and create empowered, abundant lives. As host of the Worthy and Abundant podcast, Linda shares powerful stories and transformative tools to help women step into their self-worth, wealth, and wellness. And we, again, speak from exactly where we are, which is what we want you to do as well. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I know you will. We will have all of her updated information for you to follow her in the show notes. So today we have Linda Brand on the podcast. We're so excited to have her. She has been an entrepreneur for 30 years, so we know that she's got lots of beautiful lessons for us. And we're going to let her just dive right in. Linda, tell us anything and everything that you would like to start off by.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Athena. I'm so excited for this interview and this opportunity to talk to you and your podcast. So let's see. So I started out in my 20s in real estate. So that is why I was an entrepreneur, because when you're in real estate, you're self-employed, you are an independent contractor, and you basically have your own business, even though you're under a broker. And then when my son was born in 98, like in the early 2000s, I left real estate temporarily and I had a different business, a professional pet sitting business. So that, again, I'm my own boss, so entrepreneur. And then I returned to real estate in June of 11. And I have continued to do real estate. But last year, I relocated across the country, and I want to tell that story in a little bit. But basically, I've pivoted multiple times in my life, and I grew up kind of in a not really supportive, not the most ideal setting, and a lot of negativity and victim mindset and lack and fear. Even though we had things, it just was the mindset. My dad grew up in the Depression and had to wait in line for food. So he would always be like, turn the water off, turn the lights off. He was just negative, kind of a negative person, generally speaking. So I didn't grow up in a lot of positivity or light or, you know, generosity or abundance really. So being in sales, I was listening to Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy, and really I knew early on that I needed to help my mindset, work on my mindset because sales is a rejection business. So I really had to feed myself positivity and try to work on that. I even got in trouble with the law in my teens because of lack of supervision and poor parenting. I hate to say it, but I mean, it is what it is. So I've really come and evolved and grown and healed and overcome trauma and all kinds of things in my life.
Okay, so it sounds like from even maybe an early age, you had to surround yourself with your own positivity. You had to seek out your own personal development and personal growth. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I did. And I was always self-aware. I was always kind of intuitive. In fact, I kind of knew I watched what was going on in my family, and I have two older sisters, and I kind of knew I had to get away
Mm. Mhm.
from
Mhm.
that. And so I was always out with friends, and they just weren't the right friends. But I started a coaching business and the podcast, and I was going back to my life and going, wait, when I met my son's father, my life actually got better, even though him and I had our challenges raising my son, my beautiful, healthy, blessed son. I'm so grateful that God blessed me with. It's just interesting how that works, right? When you start to reflect back and look at your life, you're like, well, things started to get better when I met him because he was better than all the other guys, but yet we weren't a match. So we raised Josh in separate homes. So I raised a son, and I've had dogs for over 30 years. And now I have my rescue dog. So I'm working on doing a masterclass for people like what to expect when you adopt a rescue dog, just because it's such a challenge when you have a post-trauma dog.
Yeah. And so are you still doing real estate as well? Like on top of all the stuff that you're doing?
Yes, I am doing a little bit of real estate. Yeah, in Florida and Michigan.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so do you find, I mean, because those are a lot of creative outlets, right? I mean, like your podcast, your coaching, your real estate, the work that you're doing with animals and rescuing and stuff. Do you find that these different creative outlets are something that helps you keep a variety in your life? I mean, or has that always been something that you've really appreciated having a variety of creative outlets?
That's a great question. I never really thought of myself as creative, and I just started dancing in my 40s because I was always self-conscious and never danced, even though I absolutely love dancing. I never really consider myself creative, but I am pretty creative. And
Mm.
I mean, I've always been able to draw, and I love to like create things in the kitchen and but ultimately, you're right. It is definitely variety. I don't like sitting still. I've been studying the abundant mindset and the law of attraction for over a decade. I overcame a challenging, debilitating illness, which I also left that part out in 2011 and 12, where I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia multiple times by multiple doctors. And I knew that was not correct, and it wasn't. And I followed my intuition. I went to a different doctor, a rheumatologist, and found the actual diagnosis and dealt with that for 4 years. So it's been a lot of things, but I am blessed. And today I'm grateful to be alive and I'm grateful for all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you and I both know Gina DeVee, right? And I just want to share this story. So in November of 21, I drove to Chicago 4.5 hours when I was living in Michigan, and I went to her white party, the signing of her book, Audacity to be Queen. And it was a 3-day workshop or 2-day workshop, and it ended up just going for the white party. And I thought, oh my gosh, no one's going to just be going for that. And my son's like, who cares? And anyway, it all changed my entire life because I ended up going to Miami to her other workshop. And I decided I'm selling my home. I'm moving to Florida. I had a divine download in the restroom at the Italian restaurant the final night of the workshop
Mm-hmm.
that I belonged in Florida. And I was washing my hands, and water's powerful. And it basically got this divine download, came back. Of course, the fear set in, all the different things. And I ended up following my inner guide and having faith and courage. And I relocated. And then my son ended up coming 4 months later. So it all works out, you know?
Yeah, that's so wonderful too that like he was almost the encourager of you to go and just do whatever part. We have those thoughts in our head that says, well, I have to do the whole thing or I have to completely do it the right way or whatever. And he was encouraging you to just participate in what you want to participate. And then you
Yeah.
had this, had that download. And then tell me a little bit more about being in the Italian restaurant bathroom and having a divine download as you were washing your hands. Like, what did that feel like? What was that moment? And was it a
It's
moment?
wild. Yeah, it was a moment. I had just finished dinner and I went to the bathroom, and I was vegetarian at the time, which now I'm back into my pescatarian diet. But anyway, and I literally just said, you belong in Florida. You belong in Florida. And so I came back to the table and I said, I told them, and I said, I think I want to move to Florida. And they were like, oh my God, that's so exciting. Oh my God, because I was in some debt. My business was struggling in Michigan. My son was graduating college 2 weeks later. So I go to the graduation and he's like, I'm moving to Kentucky. So he's moving because he had
Mhm.
a girlfriend there. Everything lined up. The stars aligned for me to relocate to Florida. And I have grown so much here, Athena. I cannot tell you how much evolving and growing and healing has taken place down here in Florida. It's been
Mm,
incredible. And the
mm.
people I'm meeting through the online communities and the things that I'm doing, it's just incredible. So I'm super blessed and grateful. And it's just amazing because you think you've healed and grown, and then more things happen and more uncovered, right?
Mm.
So how did it feel? It was wild. I was washing my hands. I mean, it's kind of like when you take a shower and you get downloads, or, it's like meditating, but I was washing my hands.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so it's just like an all impulse. Had you ever thought of moving to Florida before?
My dad used to talk about it and he never did it. He talked about retiring there and here. And I thought of it, but it was just like, even actually when I went back to Michigan after the trip, I started looking at local places, local apartments, and I was like, well, it's easier to just stay. And I was looking at places and I said, I am not walking my dog in the cold. If I am going to live in an apartment, I am, because I sold my house, I am going to be in the warm climate. And then I was listening to my book, Sonia Couchette, and she said, you accept the ebb with the flow. And I'm like,
Mm.
that's it. I came back to the house, cleaned up every room, took all the pictures, put my house on the market, and we closed on 2/22/22. And I moved
Oh,
here in April. Can you believe it?
I
Yeah.
love that. That's beautiful. Okay, so the move, so you've been there for a little over a year then.
Yeah, a year and a half
Yeah.
already. Time is flying.
I'm always very fascinated and curious about the power of decisions, right? And so when you got that divine download and that impulse, and you went back to Michigan, and then it's so, we do this, right? Because we always want to push the easy button, right? And so automatically, you went back into that kind of feeling of, well, I mean, I could just like move over here or whatever. I love the fact that it was such a role that pets play in your life, for what you're doing in your business, but also the fact that like you weren't going to stay and walk your dog anymore in Michigan, right? You didn't want to do that like in the cold. You wanted
The
to do that
cold.
somewhere warm. I love that that was kind of
Yeah.
the impulse almost to get you back on track to Florida.
I
The
know.
desire came through and it was like, no, you don't actually desire to do it in the cold. You want to do it in the warmth, right?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah, I love the snow, it's pretty, but, like, I lived there my whole life, and the cold just gets to you, and it's long, and I'm tired of it, and I just didn't even feel like I belonged in my neighborhood. I would be driving through the neighborhood going, "I don't belong here anymore." I literally would
mm,
feel like I don't belong here anymore. My son is grown, so many people moved away. It didn't feel I didn't belong, and it's so interesting when you just start
mm,
listening to your inner guide and your intuition and following those nudges, following those little nudges. It's so powerful. And yes, the dog has played an important role, and he's my first true rescue. And I got him 2 years ago. He was my foster, and
mm.
the story is he loves the car. I don't think I
Uh-huh.
could have driven to Florida by myself without him, honestly. He loves the car. It just he's like a little angel.
Guides. Yes, I love
He's an
that.
angel. Yeah, he really is. Because wasn't gonna have another dog after my last one passed away, at least not right away, and everybody was like, "Yes, you are. You're a dog person. Yes, you are." And I'm like, "I'm tired. I raised a son. I've had dogs for 30 years," but I ended up missing having a dog, and I was pet sitting on the side, and they were all amazing. Then I said, "Okay, let's do a good deed. Let's be a foster." And yeah, it's a long story short, but he's my angel baby.
That's awesome. That's so sweet. So, I can hear so much abundance in your story already. I'm curious to know, what is your definition of abundance?
Oh my goodness. So, my definition of abundance is gratitude and noticing all the blessings that we have and being present and grateful because we all have so many blessings. And I feel like you can have all this money, but still have a lack mindset and a fear around losing it or running out,
Mm,
where it's really a mindset. And it's also just, we all have abundance. It's everywhere. And taking a bath, having clean water, having clean
mm,
sheets on your bed, um, walking at the ocean. I mean, none of this costs money. And to me, it's all abundant.
mhm,
Talking with you and just close friendships. And there's just so much. When I'm present with my dog, I feel abundant. I feel blessed. Not everyone has that.
mhm.
So there's so much. Yeah, doing what you love is abundance for sure. Good food. There's so many things. What is your definition of abundance? I want to hear.
Yeah, so my definition, I feel like, continues to evolve and deepen into, different understandings and different ways of thinking about it and looking at it. And for me, I think that makes sense. And I think that's why I love this question so much, because I think we're all on an abundance journey. And so we all get to define it wherever we are. And for me, I definitely agree with the whole mindset part of it. Absolutely. You were talking about your father earlier and how he seemed to really have a lack mindset, and really moving out of that lack mindset into kind of some neutrality, right? Um, okay, so maybe things aren't so fearful. Maybe they're not so lack filled, and maybe I can think in a more positive way, right? And then moving into a space where you are becoming more of the abundance that you're talking about, that's always around you, that's always flowing to you, that's inside of you, right? And really recognizing that. And so I love that you said gratitude, because gratitude is the energy of abundance. I mean, how could we not feel so abundant when we're giving thanks for things? And the presence, you mentioned presence a few times as well. And I think a lot of times abundance really comes from being present with whomever or whatever is around you, right? Because then you can become aware of where you are, and being in that present moment allows you to reach for the gratitude thoughts and allows you to connect to something that's bigger, right? And so for me, that is what abundance is. It's really, the energy, frequency, and vibration of all that really truly is available to us. So talk to me a little bit more about your appreciation, your gratitude practices.
I'm so glad you asked because I wrote that down as soon as you were talking. I'm like, yes, I have to share. So I have been doing gratitude practices for over a decade because when that health issue was in my life, I tackled it with so many different modalities from medicinal, herbal, spiritual, and I started writing in gratitude, and continue to do this today. It's giant in my life. It helps shift your mindset, and like I said, we have so many things we can be grateful for, and it definitely is a huge, abundant way of living. You take a journal, it can be a notebook, it's next to the bed every night before you go to sleep. I am grateful for and why. I mean, I don't always do why. I just write out what I'm grateful for, but you start flowing. You're like, whoa, today was an amazing day because you start writing everything out and you're like, and this happened and this happened and that. And it's like been a great, beautiful day. So, yeah. And then when you travel, you got your notebook, you still do it. You're still doing it. And, some people don't write it. They just can speak it into the universe, and that's fine too. Thank you for this, this, this. Thank you for a delicious cup of coffee. Thank you for my podcast interview with Athena. Thank you for the sun being out if you're living in Michigan. Simple things. Like I love going to the gym and, health is a huge priority in my life. And I feel grateful that I can go to the gym, that I have a physical body that's capable of doing the workout and, the funds to be able to go and the nature being out here in Florida and taking my dog to the park. I'm grateful all the time because these are gifts not everybody has and can do.
Yeah, I love the fact too that, the flow you were just talking about, you can write it out or you can just kind of rampage it like you just did. I mean, you were just like, and I'm thankful for this, and I'm thankful for this, and I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for that. And funny how like easy it comes, like once you start, right? It's like that momentum. You're like, oh, I'm thankful for this. And then you're kind of like, oh, I'm thankful for that too. And then it just kind of
It does.
rolls. And so talk to me about manifesting. Are you cognizantly manifesting each day, or what's your relationship with manifestation?
I think we're all powerful beings. I think we create our realities. I think that we can manifest easily and frequently, actually. When you're in the gratitude space, you're absolutely in the right frequency to manifest. It's about focusing. What you focus on grows, and often we are programmed for negative thinking. And when you start focusing on your vision and what you desire to create, it comes to fruition. And so I have a vision board, and I have multiple, actually. I have a digital one and I have an actual physical one, and I take money and put it all around my home. And
Okay, that's cool.
it used to be in smaller amount, like lower, and now I'm like, I'll take large amounts of, like $50 bills or $100 bills, and I'll put them all around my house because it's a way of knowing that money's always around.
Oh, I
I've
love
had
that.
I've had to heal my money. Yeah, it's so fun. And you open a drawer and you're like, "Oh, there's money." Different places. I organize it in my wallet. I make sure it's clean and clean out your purse. I love clearing space, moving energy this way. So powerful. Like, a drawer, a closet, going through my clothes. Lately, I've been going through my clothes and just like getting rid of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more in a way. And it's also just creating space for new.
Mm, yes. Wherever there's a
So,
void, the
yeah. And
universe wants to rush in. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be, I mean, I could clear my closet and end up manifesting a new client, you know?
Mm.
It's not like I'm getting new clothes necessarily, it's just creating space or a relationship or so yeah, I think manifesting is not very difficult. I think it's easy and we can all do it. We're all powerful beings.
Mm.
What's your definition of manifesting?
Again, I think it continues to evolve. And for me, I think right now I am currently really, really thinking about, really discerning what it is that I want to do with my life and in a few areas of my life. And because there are some big changes that are coming up. And so I kind of wrote out 3 areas in my life of, where I want to start creating more, right? And manifesting. And so I have been kind of looking at that, but then day to day, I get up and I say to myself, what do I want to manifest today? What is it that I want to be more cognizant of, to be more present to? And then I write it out, and I have like 9 things that I do each morning when I'm writing out the manifestation, and it just like intentions almost, it really helps my brain first be aware of like what it is that I want for today, right? And then what are the thoughts, feelings that are associated with that manifestation? And then the actions that I'm taking. What are the impulses that I'm getting, right? That you had mentioned. What are the divine downloads that are coming? And really moving from that space. And because I think that manifestation really moves when we're in that energetic, right? And
Mhm.
so in that abundant energy that we talked about earlier. And that's why for me, those two are so closely linked. So each day I'm practicing this, and that's a real practice for me because anything that you do as a practice, like you get better at, it becomes more easy for you, right? But B, I'm really tracking the results too, because I think, just like in a diet or a new exercise routine, if we're not tracking the results, we can often be like, this isn't working, and kind of throw it out, right?
Mhm.
Um, so for me, I'm doing that, and I feel like the tracking almost helps build faith in the fact that I can create my own reality, right? I can create my abundance. And so that's kind of where I am currently.
I love that. I saw one of your videos on Instagram where you were looking at or visualizing having a home near the water, and then you went and checked on some rental properties or whatever it was, and you manifested. And that's exactly what it is. It's embodying, it's be, do, have, right? So we embody the person that has the things,
Mhm.
right? The energy and the frequency and the feelings. So it's kind of, like you can also write out, I am wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm healthy, I'm lovable, I'm wanted, I'm just, if you're looking for a relationship or whatever it is that you want to manifest. And yeah, I love that. And I love just thinking back to showing the proof, you know, well, I manifested this and that and,
Mhm.
all the things. So it's nice to notice. That's amazing. I love that.
So
What did,
what are you
yeah.
currently manifesting?
Hmm. I am manifesting more joy, more love, and more money.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm just doing it. I'm really coming from the highest good for all. I want to not focus on money because I realize from all my reading, studying that like it's really not, you can't focus on money and have it come. It has to be service and giving and like just being in your passion work and doing your stuff, and then it comes even just, in all areas, like I run my business this way. It's all about the highest good for all. If somebody came to me and was debating on buying or renting, I'm going to be truthful and telling them what's they should do. It's not going to be, oh, I'm going to try to sell them something. I want to build relationships and I want to just be the best me. And that's what I
Mm,
kind of am actually ask me, what am I manifesting? I'm manifesting a better me, a better version of myself.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. And so much alignment and authenticity inside that. I love that.
Because that's going to attract the things that I desire.
Mm. And truly desire too, right? Not just from a place where it feels like, well, I need money because I have to pay all these bills, but like in a real authentic and an aligned space. Cause I can hear that and I can feel it from you in this conversation with just the example you gave. Like, I'm not going to lie to people about what would be best renting or buying or whatever, depending on their circumstances, such service that you're giving them, right? Such authentic service. You want to be with them. You want to ask them what is the best benefit to them and really being in that alignment and authenticity. And that is really where the abundance is. I mean, like the money will come either way, whatever they choose. But like, in that moment that you're being of service, that you are doing it from such an authentic place and such an aligned place, that that's the abundance. I love that.
I now understand and believe that all money comes from source. All money comes from God. It comes through people, but it comes from God and from source. Period. It comes from the universe, source, whatever you believe in, but that is where it comes from. And I am so faithful. I'm so blessed and so grateful because it's been proven multiple times how I'm supported, how I'm guided, supported, and loved. And that's really all there is to it. God has my back. And like I read something you even posted recently about what if everything's working out for you? What if everything is working out in your best interest? And it's my belief that it is.
Mm,
So let's believe that, because your beliefs are everything.
mm,
And we get to decide what we want to believe.
yeah.
We talked about my dad and his beliefs and the fear and the lack. And that was a program that was before I even came out of my mother's body, I was probably programmed from the energies, and then from 0 to 7, you're absorbing all of these beliefs, and negative or positive, you're absorbing it. And I was dealt a hand, and I know so many people have much worse. And I was grateful for what I had. And I had love and I had shelter and I had food and stuff, but I didn't have the support and the guidance. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'd be a professional dancer. Maybe I'd be a school teacher. I don't know what I would be if I had a different, but I was loved and I am grateful, like I said. And once you're an adult, you cannot blame anyone for anything. You have to take full radical responsibility for your life. And we do create our realities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And the victim mindset is not going to manifest anything. So,
mm.
talk about manifesting, you better start taking responsibility and, and becoming a master of your mind and your decisions and all the things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about having grown up in that kind of belief system
Everyone's out to get you. And just that's literally what I was. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and what it took to move into a different belief system. Because you've mentioned being faithful a number of times now, and knowing you, I know that you are faithful. I think sometimes it can be difficult to not only get out of the lack mindset and then into more of a positive mindset, an abundant mindset, but we can cognitively understand that and we can tell ourselves the thoughts that we want to think over and over and over, because that is what a belief is, a thought that we say over and over and over again. But I also feel that there's this emotional feeling, emotional knowing, right? We go from cognitively understanding something to really feeling it in our guts. And I wonder, is there anything that you did to help yourself really go into a believing of abundance?
So, a couple things. My son was a gift from God, and he is a huge inspiration and spiritual leader actually in my life. So he has helped me and prove when you talked about journaling and documenting your manifestations,
Mm,
that in itself is proof that you are protected, guided, and supported. And it's me looking back going, I've always been taken care of.
Mm.
And things will happen, Athena, where I start getting into fear and the logical mass, that whole thing. And then you surrender and you pray, and then something happens and you're like, oh my God, there you are. Thank you.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So it's really just, it's studying the spiritual laws.
Mm. So it's looking back on the evidence of the beliefs and the faith, and then it's surrendering. Can you tell me a little bit more about what does that look like for you?
It's about accepting what is, surrendering to what is, and you can't control what you can't control, and you just have to just accept your current circumstances. It's about the energy and the alignment. Like you go to the furniture store and the people come after you,
Mm.
you're not interested. But when they come up to you and they're like, my name is this, here you go, shop around, contact me if you're interested. You're happy. You go about and you're like, that was a great salesperson. I'll be contacting them when I'm ready. But if you're in that clingy, needy energy
Mm.
and fear, I'm desperate. When I was in Michigan and my business wasn't doing well and I was in that kind of energy, yeah, it repels. So that's why when I came down here, I took my time to get my Florida license, but I did end up getting it. And I was in this different energy. And I'm like, well, number one, the price points are different. The energy is completely different down here. Although there's 10 times as many realtors down here. Everybody's a freaking realtor down here. But it's like, I'm at an open house or I'm showing homes for other agents and like people like me. They are attracted to me. They're attracted to my energy. And it's wonderful thing. But again, it's just being in alignment and
Mm.
faith and knowing that you're protected, guided, and supported. And so you just
Mm.
do your best and take aligned actions and follow your passion too. That's huge. If you can find your purpose, which I feel like you have with your abundance coaching.
Thank you.
Yeah, as long as you're having fun. I mean, if you're having fun and making money, I mean, come on, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it goes back to what you said earlier too about just being in that authenticity and alignment space, like in what you're doing, and then the money will come. And it was almost, and it goes into what you were saying also about the fact that when we are when we're receiving the tool of money, it's really the abundance is coming from source, right? Because essentially you are in your authenticity and you're interacting with somebody else. And so you're creating, this energy, this interaction, and then they decide they want to work with you in whatever capacity that is. And then they give you their energy in the form of money, right? So I agree with you that abundance, and especially the tool of money for abundance, comes from our creativity because that's all we're ever really doing, right? So when we're in our aligned authenticity, though, that is when, like you said, people really know that and they're not repelled by it. And so they want to work with you as opposed to Susie Q, who is very worried about the money and she's pushing people to like buy a house or whatever. And they don't want to give their tool of money that they worked really hard at whatever they ended up doing, whether it's working for somebody or was an entrepreneur or whatever. They don't want to give their creative energy tool of money to that person because they don't want to co-create in that way. So
Mhm.
I love
Yeah.
that, Linda.
It's all about, service too, and having that kind of mentality and in business and in any area is like giving, you give and you receive. If you're holding on to the money, your hand is closed.
Mm.
You can't receive when your hand is closed.
Ooh, I love that.
The giving and receiving, right?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
when you give, it has to be from a joyful, true desire, not I'm going to give this money because I know it's coming back because of the spiritual law of giving and receiving. It has to be giving because you desire to give. Not like, oh, I better donate to this dog shelter, this place, because I need money right now. So if I give, it'll come back. No, it has to be I'm giving because I desire to give, because I want to give. But when your hands are closed, you're not able to receive. And I loved that. So I'm sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. So tell our listeners, where can they find you? How can they interact with you?
Oh, sure. Thank you. So I have a website called lindabrandcoach.com. I'm on all social media, Instagram, Linda Brand Coach, and Linda Brand Homes, Facebook, Linda Brand, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the places. I'm serving Michigan, Florida for real estate. And yeah, mostly Instagram and the website would be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
And
and the podcast.
yes.
Check out my podcast, Empowered the Podcast. There's over 50 episodes and there's something for everybody. And you had a beautiful episode with Laura.
I
You
did.
guys were on there and people loved it. The Abundance Queens. That was a super fun episode. So yeah, check out Empowered the Podcast on all places that you can find podcasts.
Beautiful. And we will have that information also in our show notes, so people will be able to look that up. Thank you so much, Linda, for being here. It's a beautiful conversation. You are a beautiful person inside and out. And I am so grateful for your presence and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us. I greatly appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Athena. I appreciate you and appreciate the gratitude. I appreciate that so much. I feel it and receive it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode and being part of this community. I want to hear from you. Did something resonate with you in this episode? Are you experiencing awakenings or synchronicities in your life? Do you have any questions or ideas for the podcast in general? Email me at podcast@abundancewithathena.com or DM me on Instagram at abundancewithathena and share with me your stories. And with your permission, I'll share them with our community. And until next time, keep awakening to the abundance that's always within you.